Good evening, friends and colleagues. I want to welcome everybody to Baruch College. I am Karen Gorgi. I'm the director of the Computer Center for Visually Impaired People at Baruch, and we are, along with the School of Public Affairs, the sponsor of this really unbelievably exciting event. And we're so happy to welcome Mr. Chen Guangcheng and his interpreter Danica Mills and Mrs. Beijing Chen, and also very importantly our interviewer and moderator, who is the Dean of the School of Public Affairs, and that is Professor David Birdsell. So if we could just acknowledge all those folks. Thank you to all who have made the effort to get here. I think it's going to be wonderful. Let me introduce to you a great friend of CCVIP for about 1,000 years, Dean David Birdsell of the School of Public Affairs, which is celebrating its 20th anniversary next year.
Thank you very much, Karen, and welcome everybody. I am just delighted and honored to be in the presence here this evening of Chen Guangcheng, who has written a remarkable book, this book, which you can find in the back of the room after the event this evening, which details an even more remarkable account of resolve, of resiliency, of fierce dedication to human rights that I found inspiring, and I know that you will find inspiring this evening. Let me give you a brief overview of how the evening will go. Mr. Chen will make some brief remarks at the beginning, and then I have a number of questions for him. That program will run through just about 7 o'clock. At that point, we're going to go out to you for your questions, so start thinking now about what you'd like to ask. And then we will have an opportunity after those questions are over to have your book signed by Mr. Chen. And again, this is a remarkable, remarkable document of human resolve and the spirit of human dignity. So I look very much forward to the conversation that will ensue, and we'll be ably assisted by Ms. Mills, who's going to translate whatever doesn't get through the first pass. So.
Okay. 好，女士们、先生们，晚上好！非常感谢你们到来，跟我们一起交流分享中国人权问题以及这个专制之下的生活。
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here tonight and examining, analyzing the life in China as we've lived it.
非常感谢呢各界朋友之前对我们的支持声援，让我呢有机会能够脱离中共的这种魔爪的控制，也非常感谢我们来到这儿以后呢，朋友们给我们帮助。
Thank you everybody who offered support while we were under the grip of the Communist Party, and thank you for people who supported us after we came here.
我今天回到这个地方，我特别的高兴。之前呢，这个大学，我们的这个盲人中心也给我提供了很重要的帮助，让我有机会呢学习使用现代的技术，像电脑、点字机像 Carrie、像这个 Richard 还有 Gus， 我都非常感谢你们之前给我的一些帮助。
It's really wonderful to be here, to come back tonight to Baruch. I had the wonderful opportunity to take some courses here with the wonderful staff of the Center for the Visually Impaired, and I especially want to thank Gus and Richard and Karen for their wonderful guidance, which allowed me to learn some about technology while I was here.
你们的帮助让我今后做人权工作会更容易
And your help and support has and will enable me to carry out the work of human rights work with much greater expediency in the future.
也非常感谢出版社帮我们出版的这本书。我想通过这本书呢，大家可能够清楚地认识到中国跟中共宣传的是不一样的。在这个中国农村人民的生活依然非常的艰难。
And thank you also to Henry Holt Publishers for for publishing the book. This book has given us the opportunity to express and describe the situation in China as it is in reality, which is often quite different from the propaganda that people hear about, especially with regards to life in the countryside.
看到这种艰苦的环境，那么我们今天又坐在这儿，我想大家都可以从我们的书里呢得到一个结论：其实我们每一个人都可以改变这个世界，只要我们努力，只要我们去想办法，只要我们不服输，那么我们的行动就会产生后果。
And I think from sitting here quite far away from the reality in China, we can experience an understanding through the book and know that together with our hard work and our efforts, we can change the world and make the world a better place.
也非常感谢 David 先生今天晚上能够出席并且介绍我参加这个活动。
Thank you also to David for being here tonight to host and to engage in conversation and dialogue.
好的，非常感谢丹妮的翻译。
Thank you to Danica for translating.
Let's start precisely with this question of rural China, which is a portion of China that Western visitors rarely see. You grew up with such circumscribed opportunity, but you persevered, you made the most of it. What inspired you to take the strong stance that you did, but just to grow up as strong a person as you did?
我觉得这个可能很重要的一点就是归结于我跟自然的交道。我从小呢，由于没有机会读书，那么就直接跟自然接触非常多，跟这个植物啊、动物啊、鸟啊、这个鱼啊这些东西打交道，非常知道要把一个事情做好应该怎么做，或者事情的发展规律是怎么样的。
I think a lot of my experience and what I was able to overcome, I have to thank my experience as a child growing up in the natural world. I learned so much from being with animals, with plants, birds, fish. These things taught me about the natural cycles, about the laws of nature, and that's why when I later went on to tackle other problems, I had an innate understanding of how things work and how relationships work.
还有呢，就是说我从小喜欢问很多，一直把别人问烦了才算为止的这样的问题，特别像比我年长的人或者是老人，因为他们可以用一生的经验来回答我的问题，然后这些都是非常精炼的，这对我呢也有非常大的帮助。
And the other thing that was of great importance to me was that I was extremely curious as a child, and I never tired of asking questions. Even though this often made older people or my elders, adults, somewhat annoyed because I would pester them with questions. But I learned so much about their experience, and this gave me a wonderful background and wonderful understanding as well.
还有一点就是我父亲给我讲了很多传统或者是现代的这个侠客的故事，这对我都非常有帮助。
And another thing that was really helpful was my father, when I was little, often read to me and told me traditional stories about of people in traditional China, stories about valor and heroism, and this was also very inspiring for me.
Thank you.
Now, for most Westerners, certainly in the United States, who go to China, our familiarity is with cities, with Shanghai, with Beijing, with Guangzhou, with Chengdu. How different is the experience in rural China from the experience in urban China? And what do we here in the United States need to know about that difference?
我想呢，中国的这个有一种说法说，有两个中国，一个城市中国，一个农村中国。
There's a saying that in China there are two Chinas. One is the urban China, and the other is rural China.
在中国的城市呢，近几年来就是说，表面上从建筑上来看呢，确实是变化挺大的，但是事实上，在中国的农村呢，现在老百姓依然还是过着那种靠基本的一点点土地来维持生活的这样的状态。
And in the cities, of course, you'll see a lot of expressions of modernization in architecture, for example. But in the rural areas, people are still really enduring a subsistence level of living, eking out a living on small plots of land.
那么在中国农村呢，现在一般来说，可能实际的人均收入也只有几百元人民币，而且呢，从这个在公共设施几乎是等于零，也就是说，你晚上走在农村的路上，你可能一个路灯都看不到。
And the average income in rural areas is probably
一年。
It is probably annually just a few hundred kuai, which is essentially nothing when you use that money to try to buy something. And most rural areas won't even have a street lamp for use at night.
多数农民呢，仍然是在靠差不多500-600平方米的土地里种一点粮食来解决一年的生活问题。经济除了出外打工，很难得到其他的收入。
And most people in rural areas are relying on about 500, a space about 500 square meters of land for their yearly needs, and it's very difficult to find other sources of income.
所以呢，这个中国农村的这个和中国城市的这种差距，如果没有到过中国农村的，是很难想象。
So the differences between the urban areas and the rural areas are extremely difficult to imagine if you've never had the opportunity to go to the countryside.
对，就很多村庄现在刚刚有电。
And many villages are only recently receiving electricity.
那最后我想说呢，在中国有70%的人仍然还过着这种农村的生活。
And in my estimation, in China, there's about 70% of the population is still living this kind of a life.
Question for the audience. How many of you have been to China, mainland China? So we have about 12 people, thank you very much, who have been to mainland China and may have seen these differences. A long question, if I may, so I'll pause in the center. Excuse me. You suffered horrific abuse, you and members of your family, as a result of your defense of human rights and your efforts to claim your own rights. In a Witherspoon Institute lecture in October 2013, you said the following. You said, Chinese society has nearly regressed to the days of the Cultural Revolution. Could you say more about Chinese society and where it is today under Xi Jinping?
现在呢，实际上中国一直以来这个在社会上法律的作用起的是非常小的，也就是说这个权力起着整个社会的主导。
People should know that the law in China today plays only a very small part in people's lives. The more important factor is power.
那么在中国，如果这个比如说计划生育问题，如果一个妇女你怀孕了，尽管中国法律上没有赋予共产党这样的权利，也不允许他们这样做，可是他就可以随便在半夜到你家里把你从床上拖下来，拉到医院去强行给你做堕胎手术，你完全没有办法到任何的司法部门对共产党提起公告。
For example, if you are a woman who has overbirthed, the Communist Party can send people in the middle of the night to your home to have you and drag you off to a center where they'll perform a forced abortion, forcibly perform an abortion or sterilization. There's absolutely nothing you can do in terms of the law to seek justice.
很多法律虽然颁布了有很多人的话说那是给外界看的比如说中国残疾人保障法在1990年开始，1991年颁布实施，但是这个残疾人保障法当中有一个条款，就是说这个盲人可以免费在室内乘坐公共汽车、电车、地铁、路船这样的一个规定也是唯一一个非常仔细的一个规定。可是这个规定，这个法律规定在这个法律颁布实施13年以后，即使在北京也没有得到执行。
There are many laws on paper in China. A lot of people say this is just to give foreigners something to look at. It's just for show, essentially. Many laws that seem good on paper are never actually carried out. For example, in 1990, they came up with the in 1991 they instituted the protection law for the law for the protection of persons with disabilities, which is on paper somewhat similar to our ADA, but it was not. And one of the more specific clauses in that law was that blind people should be able to ride urban metropolitan transport for free, buses, subways, etc. But it wasn't until 13 years later that in Beijing this law actually started to be enforced.
那么当我这个03年去北京的时候呢，这个地铁站的人员仍然拦着我，不允许下去，说你必须买票。那么我拿出这个法律给他看，他也说不行。那么后来呢，我就觉得法律规定的再好，如果我们不去主张我们的权利是没有用的。所以呢，我就把这个北京的相关部门告上了法庭。
And in 2003, I was in Beijing trying to take a ride on the subway. I was stopped by one of the officers or one of the subway workers at the ticket gate. They demanded that I pay a ticket. I said, what about the protection law? They said that it doesn't mean anything. And that's when I realized that the law has to be more than just a paper text. It's something we need to fight to demand our rights. And I brought a suit against the manager of the Beijing Metro Corporation as a result.
那么这个法律呢，后来就在我们这个场诉讼的情况下就彻底的修改了，就是不仅把他们一个非法的规定废除了，还要求他们执行了这个法律，不仅允许盲人享有这个权利，而且还允许盲人的陪同也同样免于付费来享有这个权利。直到现在呢，我的朋友有时候还从北京打电话来跟我说，我每当坐地铁我就会想起你。
And as a result of our lawsuit, they ended up completely reworking the wording of the law and the clause. Now it's regularly enforced that blind people are allowed to ride for free in Beijing, and they also if they have a partner with them accompanying them, that person also is allowed to ride for free. And I still have friends in Beijing who call me who say I was taking the subway the other day and it made me think of you because of your work.
所以说，我想跟在座的也有很多朋友们我们身上就是说，即使在美国法律规定的非常好，也仍然需要我们站起来去捍卫法律赋予我们的权利。所以说，我们在这方面应该携起手来去争取我们的权利，不要担心这个成功的问题，只要我们坚持就会成功。在美国是一个自由的土地，应该比在北京争取更容易。
And even in America, there are a lot of wonderful laws, but we still need to work hard to make sure that those laws are enforced. America is a free place, but it should be therefore even easier to enforce our rights. So I hope that we can all work together to manifest those rights.
在中国呢是在专制之下，因为我不断的做这样的案子呢，让中共非常非常的不高兴，所以 他就花了很多很多钱，雇了上百人甚至上千人呢，把我们一家软禁在家里，后来把我送进监狱4年多，出狱以后仍然继续软禁啊。当然这个是没有任何法律依据，也是完全见不得人的事情啊。可是即使是这样啊，这个也没能改变这个。我怎么说呢？也没能改变中国走向变革的这个趋势。
And I continued this kind of work, demanding rights in different ways, and this upset the Communist Party, who used hundreds and then thousands of people, employed hundreds and then thousands of people to keep me and my family under house arrest. They then sent me to jail for 4 years. When I came back, I was still held under house arrest, but despite their many efforts, the Communist Party will not be able to hold back the inevitable transformation that will come to China.
最后我想说呢，中共很想让老百姓都来仇视我，所以他有很多人去跟老百姓说我是这个美国派去的间谍。可是呢，老百姓现在已经不是文化大革命时期的老百姓了。他们知道我们做的事情是正确的，所以中共虽然很想发动一场文化大革命，但是他们已经不可能实现它的目的。
And one of their methods at the time was to try to incite neighbors and friends into despising me. The Communist Party sent groups of people around the village to tell people that I was an American spy and to spread other lies about me. They were trying to, in essence, sort of continue with the Cultural Revolution kind of tactics. But the difference is now people are not so easily swayed and not so afraid. They didn't believe what they were being told. So it's a different situation now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'm interested in exactly this question. You were a very effective advocate for blind students, your fellow blind students in Nanjing. You were a very effective advocate for mass transit operations and effective change that lasts to this day. But the regime began, it seems to me, and I'm just trying to find out what the difference is here, to really attack you when you opposed the forced abortions and the more brutal aspects of the one-child policy. What was the difference? Was that just too central a policy for the party to tolerate?
我觉得可能计划生育啊，在中国是非常普遍的一个可以说是中共犯下的一个群体灭绝罪他以前呢一直对国际社会说中国完全不存在这样的问题，可是当我展开了这个调查以后呢，把他们所做的这些见不得人的恶行呢就公布于众了。我想这可能让中共非常恼火，也非常仇恨我。
For one thing, the family planning policy, and it's carried out throughout China. It's very common throughout the country, but it's not something that they want to bring to the light that they want to have foreigners see in any great detail. Now, when I started to examine and investigate what I was hearing about, and bring some of their more egregious crimes, which I actually would term a genocide against the population in China, this made them, infuriated them, and that's when they started to become more specifically abusive of me and my family.
其实当时呢，中共当然是对我开始是威胁、利诱、软硬兼施了一方面在给你打压另一方面呢又准备出钱收买当然如果我当年如果接受他的收买的话，我不可能进监狱。可是我觉得我们做人应该有自己的原则，更应该有自己的人格，而自己的人格尊严是不能用钱来买的。所以那个时候我就坚持不接受他们的条件，要求他们一定要依法行事，对犯罪人员进行惩处。所以中共呢，当然他是不愿意这样做了，因为他没有办法做，犯罪人员就是他们自己。所以最后他们可能就采取最强硬的手段来对付我们一家。
They began using sort of softer methods with threats, surveillance, And then that didn't work. They started offering bribes, lots of money, good positions, if I would only give up my work. I've always felt that it's the most important thing is one of the most important things is to maintain one's values, to stand up for one's principles. If we don't have our principles and we don't carry them out, then what do we have to go on for? So when I refused their bribes, and I insisted that they carry out an investigation into the crimes according to the law, they felt that they had no other recourse but to increase their suppression of me and my family.
我觉得呢，中共可能从另一个角度也是太瞧不起我们了。他可能觉得一般的人呢生活都很苦，那你盲人的残疾人生活就会更苦。那么你可能为了一点金钱，为了一点利益，为了吃饱饭，为了过好的生活呢，你可能会很容易的放弃你的尊严、你的人格啊。但是他错了。
And another factor is that I think the authorities looked down on us, had a prejudice against us, and figured that this is a blind man's family with few resources. They're poor, without many means, and so they will be easily bought by our bribes. And they didn't expect that we would stand up for what we believed in. That we just, in the blink of an eye, give up our self-respect and our values.
所以呢，当时有朋友写篇文章说啊，中国呢现在正发生着一场一个国家和一个盲人的一场战争。我想我们在座的各位呢，我们就是要有这种心态，就是要用我们一个个人敢于跟一个强权、独裁国家去做斗争。
And at the time, a friend of mine wrote an article describing how one blind man was standing up to the entire state. And I want to encourage everybody to take that image in and think about how we can all use our own power to, as individuals, to stand up to power.
为了正义要敢于这样做。
This is for the sake of justice. This is what we need to do.
谢谢。
Can you say a little bit about how your human rights work has evolved now that you're here in the United States, both with regard to civil rights in China and any other aspects of human rights on the globe that you've become interested in?
我想呢，我们当时做的这些工作呢，应该有这么几个影响。首先呢，在中国应该说是让这个暴力晋升，这个暴力的程度降低了很多，应该说是拯救了很多这个在过去来说不可能出生的生命。我记得仅在我们那一个县好像就有，就是说在我们调查过之后那一年就有7万条生命获得了生路。没能被杀去。
One of the impacts of the work that we did at the time in China was that there were many lives that were enabled to be born as a result of the work that we did in the family planning campaign. If I recall correctly, it was something in 1 year. It was about 70,000 babies were born who would otherwise have been aborted or destroyed.
然后第二点呢，就是说，在我这件事情发生以后，随着我的不妥协，那么中共对我的打压也越来越厉害。那这个消息呢，就会不断的被中国社会各界的人士所知道。那么本来呢，很多人对自己说实话呢，都是觉得自己的力量很小，不能做什么。但是当他们看到一个盲人都能坚持这样为改变这个社会，为让这个社会变得更公正而坚持做下去不妥协，那他突然会觉得，我的力量会比一个盲人要大很多。结果呢，中国就有很多公民都站出来，在各方面的正义问题上敢于发声，敢于出来声援。
In the beginning, when the Communist Party began to become more and more aggressive with me and my family, they tried to suppress the information, but it gradually got out into the public public sphere. At first, I think people felt sort of surprised. Here's a blind person standing up against this power, and I myself am just one individual. What could I do? But I think as they began to understand more about the situation, it gave people a lot of inspiration, and people started to think, well, if a blind person can do it, I can do it too. And a lot of people started to show support for what was happening to us.
所以呢，在后来他们对我的这个我出狱以后的非法拘禁过程中呢，就是全国各地的这个网民知道这些消息的人都冒着被打、被抢的危险到东市府去声援。那么这些行动呢，让强大的中共呢觉得非常非常恐慌，他们就从北京下命令到各个地方的公安部门，要求他们管好当地的民众，不要让他跑到东市府去。
And as the information began to spread on the internet, many netizens started to brave a lot of brave personal danger, physical abuse, physical danger, to come to my village to show support. This proved to be the authorities felt this was a great threat, and they told all of the local security agencies to keep a clamp down on people who might be going to my village, Nongshigu, to show support.
所以说呢，这件事情呢，让中国的这个民间，从以前的个人争取权利，走向了联合起来争取权利。
And this led to a transformation in civil society, in public discourse, in public interaction. People began to move from a situation where individuals acted for their own benefit in seeking justice to a situation where people were gathering together, banding together to seek justice seek justice arm in arm together.
现在仍是中国就是推动社会民主化的一个最强大的力量。
And this today is the greatest force that's working against the Communist Party.
还有第三点就是说呢，这件事情传到国际上以后呢，很多国外的朋友也到东市谷去看我，其中有一个最著名的就是蝙蝠侠Christian Bale， 那他的到来呢，让这件事情整个走向了国际，就是让国际社会认识到中共的邪恶，也认识到我们每一个人的行动对于推动这个改变这个世界把世界变得更美好呢，其实都起着非常重要的作用。
Another important thing is that as the news of our situation started to reach the outside, beyond China's borders, people in the international community also took note and started to show their support. One of our most famous visitors, some people may know, was Christian Bale, the actor in the Batman series. And his arrival or his attempt to visit led to a much greater understanding and knowledge about what was happening to us.
所以呢，我想跟大家说，正义的事业也需要时间来成长。我们不要被眼前的一点点压力就吓住了，只要我们坚持，它就会结出丰硕的成果。
This is through these examples, I want to let people know that the pursuit of justice is something that it's a process. It's not something that happens overnight. It's not something that sees results overnight. We can't be discouraged by momentary upsets. We need to keep pursuing justice until we achieve it.
Thank you.
You have argued strenuously against a kind of economic rationale for engagement with China, and have asked that the United States pivot its engagement with China to a human rights basis. I'd like to ask a narrower version of that question, if I may. Hundreds of universities in the United States, including this one, are involved with Chinese universities, student exchanges, faculty exchanges, joint research projects. What advice would you have for us engaged in this kind of cultural exchange in light of your commitment to human rights and your concerns about the regime?
我想呢，总的来讲，就是说跟中国交往，不要只跟中共交往，而要跟中国的人民交往。
To sort of summarize the situation, I would say that we need to not limit our interaction, or we need to have interaction with the Chinese people, not the Chinese Communist Party authorities. That's the most important thing, is the interaction with common people, regular people.
说到这个大学跟中共的合作呢，我想我不得不提习近平上台以后提出来的7不讲。
And when you mention the issue with the universities and academia engaging with China, I feel it's necessary to mention the 7 things that cannot be mentioned, which were brought up by Xi Jinping after he came to power.
这个在中国呢，共产党是凌驾于国家和政府之上的。换句话说，中国的法律是管不着他，而是他可以随便制定法律来做他想做的事。
At the moment, the Communist Party is the overriding power in China. It rides above the law, above the government, and it can change any law or change any policy according to its wishes and whims.
所以呢，这个习近平上台以后推出一个就是7不讲，叫1不讲公民不准讲这个普世价值、新闻自由、公民社会、公民权利。
And when Xi Jinping came to power, he instituted this policy of the 7 things that cannot be mentioned, including civil rights, freedom of expression,
普世价值、新闻自由、
universal values, freedom of the press,
公民社会、公民权利。
civil society, civil rights.
还有共产党的历史性错误。
And the faults, the errors that the Communist Party has committed in the past.
还有权贵资本主义。权贵资本主义。权就是掌握权力那一批人，贵就是贵族。资本主义，他们走资本主义道路，就是不要想。他们在走资本主义道路，但是你不要说。
And also the other thing that cannot be mentioned is that some of those in power are capitalists, and that's also not something that can be mentioned.
还有一个呢，就是司法独立司法不能独立，必须成为共产党的一个工具。
And the other thing is independence of the judiciary. The judiciary now is essentially a tool. It is a tool of the Communist Party.
而且呢，他们还以党的名义要求中国各大专院校的这些老师都必须按照这个来做，不能跟学生讲。
And this policy was spread to universities and schools throughout China. Teachers and heads of schools were told that they could not speak about these issues in school.
所以说呢，我说这美国作为一个自由世界的大学，我们传播这是一种这个正确的价值观，一种真理一种学术言论和科研的自由。那你说要到中国什么都不能讲，我们到中国去干什么呢？
So America is a place where we have free universities. We can talk about these things. We can talk about justice. So why then would we go to China where we can't talk about any of these things?
那我们能接受7不讲吗？
Should we accept in going to China and working with China the 7 things that should not be mentioned?
所以说，如果我们为了眼前的一点经济利益而牺牲了这种长久的价值原则、这种长远的利益学术自由等这些利益的话，那是太得不偿失了。
So if it would be a great mistake to sacrifice our values, our underlying principles, for a short-term benefit that we see right before our eyes.
Okay, 谢谢。
Members of the audience, you've been patient. I have one more question, so be thinking of your own after the answer to this one. Your path, Mr. Chen, has been enormously difficult. You've been beaten, you've been imprisoned, Your family has been beaten. Your family has been imprisoned. There is a level of sacrifice that many of us find hard to imagine. Where would you suggest we look for the kind of courage and commitment that you have so amply demonstrated throughout your life?
我想呢，可能我以前说过一句话呢，叫做人生当中啊，这个酸甜苦辣都是有营养的。不要觉得我吃了一点苦，受了一点罪，这是坏事情，实际上这是好事情。
I said in the past that all the flavors of life, the bitter, the sweet, the sour, and the fragrant, are all important. We shouldn't be afraid of a little bit of the sour and the bitter, because these things also have nourishment for us.
当我们处在困难的时候，我们就想啊，你就把眼前的这个困难看成是一个非常重要的一生当中不可多得的一个锻炼你自己的机会，不管是锻炼你的忍耐力，锻炼你的能力，还是锻炼你的专业技能，这都是一种，就是说让你有机会提高的一个很好的时机。
And I look at these things as not obstacles, but as opportunities to grow, to develop, to learn. So we need to think of difficulties in life not as things to avoid, but as things that help us become better people.
有点像呢，我们推车要爬一个坡的时候，如果你直接慢慢推上去，可能推不上去。但是你往后倒一段时间，然后再向前冲刺的话，借着它的惯性，你就会爬得更高，就爬上这个坡去。其实人生有时候也是这样一个道理。
And it's sort of like if you try to push a cart directly up a hill, you may find it very, very difficult. But if you go up in a switchback form, you'll find that you eventually do get to the top. This is a metaphor for how we could face obstacles like this.
所以说呢，总体上来讲，就是要把眼光放得远一点，不要只看到眼前的这个困难，要把之前、现在和之后的事情联系起来，有一个总体的方向，可能做起来就会比较。
You need to think about the far distant future, not just what's right in front of you. We think about our past, the present, and the future all together, then we'll have a basis and a foundation for going forward.
总的来说呢，在任何困难面前，你的脑袋都不要有没办法了不可能了这个词儿，你脑子里就永远不要有，你就想我怎么解决眼前这个问题，肯定有办法来解决这个问题。那么我现在要想有几种可能能解决的问题，哪种可能会最好，那么你就会找到解决的方法。
In facing hardships, one mustn't say, I can't do it, there's no way, there's no possibility. You have to banish those words and those phrases from your mind. You need to think about what is the situation, what are the ways that I can solve the problem, and what are the methods I can use to solve the situation that's at hand.
所以呢，当时我们在家被困的时候刚开始这些几十个看守围着我们家在外边，我们觉得外边都有这个长光灯一周圈照的跟白天一样，我觉得可能没有办法逃出去但实际上你想想还是有可能后来这些看守住进我们院子里，我们觉得哎呀这次更没有可能了，本来在院子外边也许还能找到机会，现在更没机会了再后来你会发现还是有机会一直到这看守住到你的屋里，坐在你的饭桌旁瞪着眼睛看着你，你觉得这回可真没办法了，可是最后我们不还是在这儿吗？这就是说没有克服不了的困难。
And I would give an example. When we were under house arrest, they put up high-powered lights around our yard and around the village, and we felt this is surely an insurmountable obstacle. Then the guards moved into our yard which you would think is also even more of an obstacle, and there's even less of a chance of getting out. Then the guards were living in our house. They were sitting at our table. And there's nowhere to go that they couldn't see us. But today we're here, which is proof that anything is possible.
And now the floor is yours. If you could please just identify yourself before asking your question for Mr. Chen. So we'll start in the front row with the woman whose hand is up right here.
Hi, my name is Dr. Sharon Ware. I work at the Commission for the Blind Harlem office. Thank you very much for your presentation. I have more of a question on vocational hope and inspiration for those people that are blind and visually impaired here in the United States. I was hoping that you could share some information about your work efforts, and also if you could inspire those individuals here that are not employed. As you know, the unemployment rate for persons that are blind and visually impaired is quite high here in the United States, and this is why we have the Commission for the Blind. But if you could just share your work experiences and inspiration of hope for other people that are trying to fight the fight of unemployment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. 我想呢，这个对于咱们这些盲人朋友呢，首先自己不要瞧不起自己，要相信我们通过努力，我们是和朋友们都是一样聪明的。我们的工作效率比健全人来讲可能要低一些，但是我们借助一些辅助的工具，花的时间长一点，我们花的努力更多一点，一样可以达到普通人的水平，甚至超过他们。所以我们要强化我们自己的技能和适应这些社会的能力啊。这个我想，这个社会肯定会有我们的位置。
First of all, I want to encourage all of my friends in the blind community to not look down on yourselves. You have to know that you are just as capable, as innately intelligent as our other friends, and that we don't want to. Thinking about the statistics isn't necessarily as helpful as thinking about what are the opportunities, what kinds of tools do I need to achieve my best. I'm just as smart and intelligent as others, and if I work hard, I might have to spend more time to overcome certain situations, but with some time, with effort, with some help, I can probably be even more successful than my sighted friends. There surely is a place for all of us in society.
我想我们客观的分析我们自身，我们的优势在什么地方，我们的劣势在什么地方，我们要发挥我们的长处，然后呢去不断的学习，提高我们自己的技能来弥补我们的短处。那么这样就使我们更贴近于这个社会，就使机会更接近于我们。
We need to understand what our capabilities are, what our intelligence, our abilities. We need to have an understanding, and we need to work on our capabilities, and we will be able to find a place for ourselves.
Thank you.
Question in the back.
Mr. Chen, my name is Gordon Rothman, and it's a great pleasure and inspiration to have you here tonight. I had a question about China's future. If I heard you right, you referred to an inevitable transformation coming to China, and I wanted to know how you saw that coming about and what that future would look like.
我想呢，总的来说，中国现在官和民的这种力量的对比呢，每一天都在发生着变化。民间的力量越来越强，中共想控制这个社会，投入的力量也越来越大，也越来越显得力不从心。
First of all, I think we can. It's clear that the power, division of power, the balance of power is slowly shifting day by day. The power of the authorities has typically been greater than that of the common people, but the balance is slowly tipping.
所以呢，我觉得中国人民这种从内心的觉醒，为中国的变革已经打下了一个很好的基础。随着互联网信息的发展，那么让中国人也看到了中国以外自由世界的这种比独裁之下公正的多的是状况，所以这都为中国的变化打下了基础。
And the people of China are experiencing an awakening. This has in part been brought about by the development of technology and the internet. People are starting to see what just societies on the outside look like, and they're starting to want that. And they're seeing that China is not like that.
所以呢，我们可以看到，人一旦知道了自由的滋味，就再也不可能被困起来，啊，就像是这个怎么说呢？就像古代所有的这些国家一样，中共政权一样，中共的这种残暴，也是注定了它必将被送入历史。因为从我的经验来讲呢，即使中共自己也不认为他的权力会长久下去，他也知道必然有一天会变，只是呢，好像在等着这一天，或者说能挽救一天就是一天。
And this makes me think about a tradition in China when those in power become more and more violent and oppressive. This symbolizes the fact that they will not have staying power. They will not last forever. So the authorities now are themselves understand that this regime does not have a long future.
倒退10几年呢，中共做的一些坏的事情，你现在根本没有办法知道。那么，但是现在你会看到呢，他如果想把一件事情掩盖起来，几乎就不可能。所以说，这是一个非常非常大的变化。那么，随着这个战胜恐惧的人越来越多，中国变革是不可避免的。
In the past, in past decades, there were a lot of things that the Communist Party, Communist authorities could carry out a lot of atrocities and crimes, and nobody would know about it. But now the situation is different. It's very difficult to completely cover up their criminal acts. And as people overcome their fear, the change becomes inevitable.
Thank you.
Question in the second row. Well, we have 3 in the second row, but we'll start with you on the aisle here. Yes.
First I'd like to say thank you very much for your courage and perseverance through very difficult times. It's an honor to be also a member of the same species as such an individual as you. I was wondering whether you've had the opportunity to experience North American flora and fauna, the counterparts of what taught you in China.
对，是我当时比较喜欢住在这个跟自然很容易接近的地方，所以呢，我觉得我对美国的自然界当然有一个很深的多次的这个接触，我觉得其实它同样可以给我很多灵感。
The natural world here has also been really important to me, and I like to live in places where I feel like I can have more access to nature. And I've had a number of opportunities to be out in nature here, and I feel that the nature in America also lends itself to experiences of learning and development.
很多朋友问我到美国来和在中国就是感受有什么不一样，其实我一直在回答，不管是从自然界当中给我们的信息，还是我们普通人内心向往公平、正义、善良这种朴实的人性，其实在各个地方差别真的不是很大。那么最大的差别就是说，这个政权是一个什么样的政权？如果是一个民主的政权，是一个受人民监督的政权，靠人民选票选出来的政权，它不得不为人民服务， 它即使出格也不是会很多，可是，在专制之下，人民就完全的不一样啊！长期受这种奴役呢，可能心灵上会受一些扭曲，但是善良的本质是掩盖不住。
A lot of people have asked me since I've come here about how I feel about the differences between China and America, and the natural world is one of the commonalities, and the other that I found is people's innate goodness, the desire for justice and freedom. These are things that are common throughout all people. The main difference between China and America is the government system. If you have a system of democracy where people are able to lend checks and balances to their government, will lead to the government to a greater possibility of serving the people, of doing good for the people. Of course, there may be instances where people in power sort of go out of their off track a little bit, but it won't be as egregious as in a dictatorial situation.
我在美国一个明显的感受就是，当我前年秋天去一个果园的时候，如果周围不是很喧闹的话，你自己走在果园里，可能大家一下子就会认为果园里有很多果树枝都长在那儿，那我们看不见，很容易被树枝戳伤。可是，当你真正走在那儿，你静下心来，去用心和这一片土地和这土地上的这个果树对话的时候，你就会发现呢，其实每棵果树都会给你一个信息，告诉你我在这儿，它在那儿，这样的你会清晰的找到你的位置，也会清晰的找到你在这果园里应该怎么走。
I had an experience last fall when I was out for a walk in an orchard, and many people would think walking around in an orchard, you might have many opportunities to bump into branches and trees, but I found that in the quiet of the space, each of the trees gave me a sense of itself and told me where it was, and I felt a real sort of communion with this space and the nature there.
Thank you.
We'll just continue to the north along the second row. Yes.
Hi. Thank you for sharing your story with us. My name is Chris Buckley, and I was just wondering what type of rehabilitation services are available to people who are blind in China? For example, orientation and mobility services, walking around. Do you get trained to use a cane, or do you have the ability to use a guide dog? Is that even possible in China?
其实呢，很多在中国能够得到社会福利的盲人呢，可能我估计据我所知，可能连几1%都不到。
In my understanding, my experience in China, disabled people, probably of the disabled people, maybe only 1% have access to services of that sort.
很多的这个盲人朋友，尤其是在农村的呢，仍然在靠传统的这种家庭供养的形式来生存。也就是说呢，如果他没有特别的技能呢，他只能靠他的父母给他提供一些吃食来维持生活。
And most blind people, disabled people, especially in the countryside, end up having to rely on the traditional system whereby the family takes care of the individual. And unless somebody has a really sort of exceptional ability, the family will be responsible for the needs of that person.
差不多接近一半吧，有40%多的这个盲人呢，就是说，可能先天条件比较好，他们可以找到师傅学到这个算命的技术。那么之后呢，可以在农村走街串巷来为普通民众去占卜，靠这个呢来维持生计。那么其实在中国农村完全没有什么无障碍设施，完全就是走在这种普通的田间或者山间的这种路上，当然是比较危险，可是他们仍然是靠这种普通人的善良指导给他提供一些住宿来维持生计。
And maybe about 40% of the blind people in rural areas are able to study fortune telling, and they use this to make a livelihood for themselves. And, unfortunately, it demands that they go out on their own through the fields or in the pathways over or lanes over the mountains with no safety measures at all. So, and they're really they depend on the kindness of strangers to make their way.
所以这个导盲犬呢，在中国是非常非常奢侈的。我到目前为止，我还没有听说有一个人有。
And a guide dog would be an absolute luxury to a blind person in China, and also therefore completely out of reach. I don't think I've ever heard of somebody using or having a guide dog in China.
说到这个，我要补充一点，就是说我在当年维权的时候啊，也是因为这个中国的法律有规定，就是在农村的这些生活在农村的没有劳动能力的这个盲人呐、这残疾人啊，是不承担这个物质性社会负担。具体的说，就是不需要向国家交税。可是呢，这些中共的干部呢，就总是逼着这些盲人去给他交税，而且说呢，你看不见，如果你把税交上呢，我跟其他能看得见的人要税就比较好要了。可是他忘了法律上是不允许这样做的。可是这些盲人如果拒绝交纳呢，就会被这个党委书记谩骂，或者是被人冲到家里去殴打。所以出现这样的情况呢，我就帮助他们去维权，去起诉这些中共的干部，这也得罪了他们。
And in my early experiences as a human rights advocate, I started helping some blind people in the rural areas who were being unfairly taxed. At that time, everybody was subject to a tax, sort of a population tax. The law said that the blind and disabled should not bear a further material burden, or should not bring further material burden to their families. But the local party authorities continued to demand taxes and fees from blind people, and if they didn't give it, then they would curse them, yell at them, and sometimes beat them to demand it. So I helped a number of people bring lawsuits against officials for the unfair taxation.
甚至呢，有的书记说你看不见，如果你先交上，我跟其他看见的人要就好要，何等的好。
And one of the party secretaries said, well, to one of the blind people, if you pay the tax, then that will make it easier for me to get the tax from people who can see. Sighted
We have one more row 2 on the northward march, and then we have time for 2 more quick questions. So.
I'm Jeremiah Taylor. I was wondering where he was educated. Was in the village? How much education did he have? And what tools did they use to educate him? How did he learn?
其实呢，我是到了18周岁呢，才有机会走进学校去读书。那么在当时呢，中国真的没有地方可以读书，可能在中国，我也是有到离我们很远的城市才有这样一个盲校。
I started school, my formal education, when I was 18 years old. At the time, there were very few schools for the blind in China, and I had to go very far from home to a city far away to study, to begin primary school.
那么在中国读书呢，完全不像我们这儿的这个学习条件那么好，我们还有这个 Braille note 啊，在我们那个时候呢，最多也只能就是买一个那种用这个盲文笔扎字的那个字板，然后呢就是说连买一个盲文纸都买不起，我们只能用报纸叠起来4层报纸呢，在这上面来用来写作业学习。
And of course, at the time, we had very few resources at our disposal. There were no Braille note takers at the time. The most that we had were called a Braille board with a stylus, wherein you poke bumps into the paper to create the Braille. But we were too poor to even buy the paper for that, and we would use 4 sheets of magazine paper folded together to make the paper.
而且呢，在中国盲文书是非常非常缺少的， 其实大家知道我在中国做了很长时间的法律，其实我除了一本残疾人保障法以外，我并没有一本盲文的法律书。那么要学法律都是要靠别人给我读，然后我把它写下笔记来，然后再去学习。
And there are very few Braille books available to the blind in China. The whole time I was working on issues of the law, I had only one document that was in Braille, and that was the law for the protection of people with disabilities. Besides that, I had to, with my study of the law, I relied almost entirely on other people to read text to me, and then I would take notes with my Braille stylus and study from that.
其实我们在学校的时候呢，学校里完全没有暖气啊，没有热水，甚至连凉水很多时候都没有。那么，我们在教室里还有在宿舍里，这个里边的温度其实跟室外的温度是差不太多的。冬天呢，大家都真的冻的手都没有办法摸清楚这个盲文。
And our circumstances in school were very substandard. There was no heat in our school, even though it was in a northern area. We didn't have hot water, only very, very rarely, and sometimes we didn't even have running water of any sort. And oftentimes it was so cold inside that it was the same temperature as outside, and our hands would be too cold to properly read the Braille.
所以呢，我就说那个时候，其实我再跟大家说一点啊，我在学校里呢，可能就是说整个我读书的过程，差不多有80%以上的时间都是只能吃个半饱啊，这对我其实也是一个非常大的伤害。
And also I want to tell people that when I was in school, I was able to eat my fill only about 80% of the time. I was able to partially. I almost never ate my fill. I was mostly in a near starvation condition most of the time.
所以我说呢，大家条件真的是太好了，咱们好好利用我们的条件，我们可以做非常非常重要的事情。相信我们一定能做很重要的事情，因为周围条件对我们来说太好了。
So our facility, the situation now here is really quite extraordinary, and we should all take advantage of what we have to do something really extraordinary.
Thank you.
I know there are many, many questions. I'm sorry we have time only for two. The gentleman in the fifth row seated with the red warm-up and the sunglasses.
Okay. Thank you for your presentation. And what type of adaptive equipment do you have now? Do you have any?
What type of what?
Adaptive equipment does he have now?
你用什么样的一些就是盲人设备？
现在吗？
对，现在。设备。
现在呢，我怎么说呢？我现在来到美国之后，我有机会用到这个 Braille Note 啊，这边呢这个像Richard 教我用的一个阶段，但很遗憾，很不好意思跟大家说呢，这个我到现在还有很多功能不会用。当然，我也非常想呢继续的学习这个苹果电脑的用法，我想这个将来都会对我有非常非常重要的帮助。目前其他的工具呢，我还没有，谢谢。
As of now, and since I've been in the U.S., I've been using the Braille Note Taker, but I'm a little bit embarrassed to say that there's still a lot of functions on the device that I don't know how to use. I hope that at some point I will be able to use them. I also, with Richard's help, I was able to learn about the Apple functionality, and I hope I'll be able to learn more about that going forward.
对，其他的呢，当然这些，对我来说的都是比较新的。
These things to me are all quite new.
Last question from the gentleman standing on the wall.
Oh, thank you. My name is Tim. I would identify myself as a math teacher. Before I ask my question, I wanted to thank you and say that people can relate to you and follow your lead because they know you overcame the same struggles with even more obstacles.
Oh, thank you.
I was wondering, how can we stay in contact with your perspective and your progress after today?
哦，谢谢，我们可以互相留一下联系方法，保持联系。我们怎么说呢？一起去推动，让我们生活的环境，让我们的这个社会变得更好吧。我非常愿意跟你们保持联系。
I'm quite willing to exchange contact information, and I would love to stay connected. I'd love to be able to work together with everybody to make our environment, to make our world a better place for everyone.
Thank you.
When he was under house arrest, Amnesty International circulated a campaign to say, "We are with you, Chen Guangcheng," and they had everybody record a Mandarin version of that statement. So, with my great apologies for my non-existent Mandarin, I think we can all here say, "Chen Guangcheng, wo ji qi."
Oh, thank you.
Get your really cool brand new CCVIP bag and put your copy of the Barefoot Lawyer in it, and there will be a signing right now. Thanks very much, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.